Hi, I'm Bobby from Geeky Bobbin. I'm going to show you how to sew Y seams so you can make this beautiful baby quilt from my intersectional quilt pattern. The fabrics I used are Catch and Release by Mr. Domestic for Art Gallery Fabrics. Now I know you might have run screaming when you heard the word Y seams, but I'm going to show you why you should say yes to Y seams. I'm going to do a couple of slow demos. Y seams can take a lot of concentration, so there's going to be no distracting music and no weird editing cuts or anything. Let's get stitching.
Y seams are all about knowing where to start and stop your stitches. So you can head over to my blog post for more details on how I do that. But here, just know that I've marked this line to know where my needle needs to go down, and I need to start and stop my stitch there. So the needle goes down directly in the line, and then I take a couple of stitches forward and a couple of stitches back so that I can lock in my seam. From there, I just sew my 1/4 inch seam until I get close to the end. Now, on some patterns, you might not need to do a Y seam at both ends, but I'm doing them here just so that I can have more to demonstrate. So I stop before I run over that seam allowance right there. I've got my needle down so nothing's going to shift, and I lift my presser foot.
My needle is down,
so I can fold that seam allowance out of the way. You can see that the piece that's underneath, those two seams are nested. And I want to keep those seams aligned. That way my points are going to be just right. So I'm using my seam ripper here as a bit of a stiletto to keep those lined up properly. Then I put my presser foot back down and I keep on stitching until I get to my stop point, which in this case is the other seam that you can already see there. And once again, I'm going to back stitch to lock that stitch in.
and stop right on that seam.
You can see the needle is right next to that stitch.
And I'm done. These two seams come right up next to each other, but they don't cross. So when I open it up, they just barely meet. I've made a crease here, pointing straight into that corner. I put my needle down, 2 stitches forward, 2 stitches back. Flip that over. And reverse. Right in there. 2 stitches forward. And back. And then I stitch on forward. Stop before I get to the seam allowance. And flip it over. Keep going 1 stitch at a time. Okay, stopping right at or just before the other seam. Lift my needle up and my presser foot. I can reorient And now I can do this side. Line things up. Needle down. So I'm going to do one stitch back, one stitch forward. Press her foot up. Curl back all of these seam allowances. Press her foot down. Make sure everything stays lined up and straight. There we go. And I'm going to stop just before that seam and do a back stitch. That will come out in the wash. And by that I mean it'll quilt out.
I hope you found that soothing and not at all frightening. For more tips on how to piece Y seams and why they're not scary at all, head over to my blog. I've got a link below. If you'd like to make your own intersectional quilt, you can buy the pattern on my website, geekybobbin.com. It comes in 3 sizes. You can make a throw, a crib size, or a mini quilt. And there are 3 different layouts. So many possibilities. Happy stitching, everyone.